Hey everybody, welcome back to week three of our Smart Money Chat with Danny and I. We are excited to talk about today's topic. So everybody knows us based on our credit card reels. We always post, things about credit cards, how we're redeeming our miles for luxurious travel, but nobody really knows what we do at Start Smart Finance, or that's at least the sense that we get. So today we're doing a requested topic of people asking us, what do you guys actually do with clients? So today we're peeling back the curtain and we are going to take you behind the scenes on everything we do with our clients, from the initial free consultation all the way to our monthly monitoring. So I'm excited for you guys to join us today. Danny, let's talk clients.
Let's do this. Let's do this.
So I think it's important for us to talk about why we started Start Smart Finance. And this is something, people have heard in the last few weeks ago about how we met at a party and we were talking money and we were the nerds in the corner. But beyond that, like what is our driving force for teaching people to be accountable with their money and educating them about the things that they didn't learn in school? So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, where do I start, right? I mean, I've been in the shoes of some of these clients, right? I mean, I've been a fresh grad where I just got like a brand new job and don't even understand what to do with my money, right? You hear from like different people. Like for me, before Instagram really popped off and all this information, it was really word of mouth. And a lot of things that you hear, especially from being like a first generation immigrant in the country, a lot of times what you hear is put your money in savings, max out your 401k, don't get credit cards. You hear all these different things. So really, based on that information, a lot of the thing was like I just felt lost, right? A lot of information that was like going against one another. And then really just started learning from myself to be like, what's the right approach? How do I manage my money? What should I do with my money? A big word I've heard over the years is like, you got to budget for the future. And I'm like, well, what's a budget? How do I budget? How do I get started on a budget? And, there are plenty of apps out there that I started with. Some that really just didn't fit my need, really. And then, it just went back to like my trading grounds of like, I'm very big into analytics. I like working on a spreadsheet. That's like the most nerdiest thing I've ever said in my life. But I love spreadsheets for whatever reason. Numbers make sense to me, and I kind of just created my first template of a budget and just really like, put everything in there where it was like, you know, what did I make? What did I spend on? Right. And just get a better sense of like, where is my money going? How did I start? So that was really what started for me, where it was like, like I'm not the only one who deals with this. There's a lot of people I know, a lot of people in my friend group who are in a very similar boat. A lot of people I've talked to in my alumni association, same thing. They're like, yeah, dude, money just comes in, money goes out. I have no idea how much I save. And it was just like that eureka moment where I was like, hey, I learned something. I would love to teach you guys. I was lost. It sounds like you guys are lost too. So why don't we learn together and, try to overcome this hurdle of like personal finance. And, it's already hard being an adult. It's already hard being a young adult transitioning into an adult. And you got all these bills and you're like, and the last thing you want to worry about is your money. So that's what got me started. I mean, the whole budgeting aspect of like my personal finances.
Yeah, mine is a similar journey. I think we share that with a lot of our clients, which is something that helps, right? Like we're first generation college students, we're first generation Americans. Like it's something that our parents left behind a good life to come here to provide better for us. And I felt that same sense, like I did decent in school, well enough, but I never learned much about money, even through undergrad. And I can tell you, I took out loans and I spent loan money on things that it should not be meant for, bar tabs and restaurants and things like that, where I look back and I think, wow, if I had known what I know today, I would have been in a much different situation. And then going to pharmacy school and a private pharmacy school at that, obviously you have student loans, and at least when you're in a grad school program that you're going to come out making money. But I think there's a lot of steep learning curves that I had about, learning about student loans. What do I do with this income? What's the income scale going to look like? And I never really learned that from my parents or anybody around me. And I think we can empathize with all of our clients there because my parents worked, minimum wage jobs. My mom worked at TJ Maxx for 30 years, right? It's not like she was a financial executive or and my dad wasn't like the PE guy, right? Like we didn't learn or inherit all this money that we knew how to manage. Like I didn't know a lot of what I know now until my late 20s. And so I felt the same way. I had, probably I had less people asking me about budgeting than were asking you. I had more people asking me about credit cards and like how to manage that. So that kind of ties into our story about how, we each took something that we were passionate about and came together. Um, and I think how we got to start Smart Finance, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Yes, it was the party, but after that party, I called you. I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a points in business thing," and you had just gotten not done consulting, but you were considering being done consulting. You're like, "Hey, why don't we team up on this?"
Right. Yeah. And exactly. I mean, I feel like I've been doing budgeting for so many people for so long. And I was like, you know what? It would be nice to like give back. It would be nice to educate. I mean, I just feel like it's that one piece that like, I mean, you can go on Instagram all you want, but it's like that personal touch of like meeting people and just be like, hey, this is what we work on. This is how we can help grow one another.
And what I like to tell people is, and this we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast, we're not financial advisors. We are financial personal trainers. And that is a big difference, right? Like that is, we are meant to guide people and teach them and not do it for them. That is the number one principle. I mean, we have a lot of catchphrases at Start Smart Finance, but that is also one of them.
Right.
So I'll quickly touch on, the three-part consultation because we've gotten asked that a lot. Like, oh, you guys are financial coaches. It must be expensive. The first three meeting with us are completely free, and we will spend as much time as we need. We usually allot between 30 minutes to an hour each time. So, a total of either 90 minutes to 3 hours. And that's all for free. And that's really because we are truly believing that money is a personal topic. Money is a touchy subject for a lot of people. And you don't want to just go out and talk about your financial situation with anybody. So the first meeting is really just us explaining what we just told you all, why we ended up here, how we ended up here, things we've learned along the way, and ways that we like to help clients. So we're not salespeople. That's not what the goal of this is. And that's the first meeting. It's really just, hey, we're two people who are passionate about this. We'd love to help you along the way. The second meeting ends up in the first meeting, we also send out, a pre-question, a pre-meeting survey, if you will. And so we send this out to all of our prospective clients to really just have them do a quick self-assessment of how much do I actually think I know about money? How many credit cards do I have? Am I in debt? Like very basic questions. Do you have a checking account or a savings account? So they can come prepared, and do a very high level assessment of where they're at. That second free consultation is purely to go over expectations, expectations both ways. And so we truly believe that this is a two-way street, right, Danny? Like we expect some things from our clients, timeliness, putting that energy and effort in to match what we're doing as well. And then on the other end, we want to deliver for our clients. We want to make sure that they feel heard and they feel like they're getting supported in their journey and reaching their goals. And then timeline. That's the other thing. This depending on what the goals are, this is not something that like it's not a workout program where like get shredded in 90 days. Like that doesn't happen with finances. You're not going to become a millionaire in 90 days with us. If that was the case, Danny and I would not have this business and we'd be on a boat somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and then the third meeting is really the deciding point, right? So like think of it like the third meeting is we'll go over contract. We've talked a lot about that. You hopefully feel more comfortable. And then we decide, is this the right fit for both of us? I don't know if there's anything else you want to add into that free three-part consultation.
No, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I think it's all about building a relationship, right? I mean, yes, as we talked about, like, finance is a touchy topic. Nobody wants to share their salary. Nobody really wants to go over like, nobody wants to talk about like the skeletons in the closet. And quite frankly, we understand, right? Like we were in a similar boat where we were also embarrassed to talk about it. And so, we tell them our personal stories, and that kind of like, gets us to like mesh with one another to be like we understand where you're coming from. This is what worked for us. We'd like to be your coaches slash cheerleaders in this journey too, right? I mean, we're one of those people. We're that team where we come together. We're just like, hey, listen, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. People have done this. People don't talk about it. And you made the right first step to pretty much tackling these problems. So, I mean, kudos to them.
Yeah, I completely agree. It takes a lot of courage to admit that you don't know something and admit that you want to learn more. It takes a lot of courage, especially about a touchy topic, right? Like I think of it the same way as a personal training, right? You can only get so uncomfortable before you realize that you need to do something, and by that point, you're 110% committed to bettering your life.
Right.
I think the other thing that is a big thing that I want to ask you about, because this is something that you taught me early on. And so for those of you who don't know, Danny briefly alluded to his experience with budgeting, which is a huge undersell. If you all saw the Excel program that he wrote, you would go bonkers. You think that he was a coder. Like when I first saw it, I'm like, there's no way you wrote this thing. And he actually wrote it. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful Excel sheet that we will never give to anybody because of how beautiful it is. So let's talk about the 3 month financial look back and what you do with that. What do you do with that information?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think everybody needs a starting point, right? So our starting point is we look back at the last 3 months of your finance journey. Um, what have you done? What are your spending habits? What's working for you? What's not working for you? Um, Money going in, money going out. It's really like, and in our questionnaire, you saw it. What are your goals? What's your short-term goal? What's your long-term goal? What are you saving? Are you saving, right? Like, do you know about the 50/30/20? And that's some of the things that we do with that 3 month the look back. So what we do over there is really we start categorizing everything, right? Every transaction you've had with your credit cards, any checks that have come in, we have a section for income, we have a section for all your expenses, and we break down the expenses as what's a necessity, what's miscellaneous, what's other. Sometimes other is like, professional degrees, you're doing something, so you need that's what we consider as an other, but necessities, it's like, groceries. For a lot of our clients, they drive to work, so gas, insurance, rent, mortgage, all these different things, those are necessities. Like what's your day-to-day that you absolutely need? And then what's your miscellaneous, right? And this is where like a lot of our clients get a little embarrassed. They're like, "Oh, I don't want you looking at my Amazon charges." I'm like, "Hey, listen, we get it, right?" But we talked about this before when we first moved into our homes. A lot of Amazon purchases, so nothing to be embarrassed about. It's all, we start talking about like, okay, these are expenses. This is how you could have done better with those expenses. Like, what credit card should you have used? So that's really what it is. Like, we just look back at like the last 3 months. We really look at like we go through like a fine comb of like what you've done. And then we just like, we talk about it. We're like, hey, you did really well in this, or hey, this could use some work. And then we break it down, right? The 50/30/20 rule, like 50% of your income goes to your necessities. And we have like a color chart over there. It's like anything below 50%, you're in the green, you're great. A little bit over 50%, like 51, 52, you're in the yellow. But anything more than that, we'll be like, hey, let's readjust this and we'll see what your new necessities be. And then same thing with miscellaneous, right? It's like we try to keep it at like 30% of your income goes into miscellaneous or 20% goes into savings. And again, there's a color chart for that. But we look at the last 3 months and then we say, hey, this is a very real deep dive of what you've done, and this is how we're gonna grow. And a lot of times we see like clients like, how much they've saved, right? Like their savings. I've seen like our last client was like dark red, was like spending more than what they made. And like what was it? The first 3 months they turned it around and they were like in the 25% savings. And I was like, wow, so you have it in you. You just need a little
Yeah,
bit of
you need to push sometimes. And I think you're a few things that I didn't mention earlier. This is all completely confidential. One, we
yeah.
don't share it with anybody outside of us. Three, us two and the client, obviously. Two, this is all de-identified, right? So we don't ask for social security numbers. We don't ask for actual paycheck stubs, W-2s, none of that. Like we don't want your account numbers. And we'll talk about we use a program that basically you have an account which is paid for through your membership with us. It's linked through Stripe, so all we see is the de-identified raw transactions that we use. So no very sensitive information is shared. And then three, we listen and we don't judge. Danny said that. Like if somebody was to look at my transactions, they'd be like, "Dude, what is wrong with you? Like, how many times a month do you need to go to Taco Bell?" So yes, there's we just don't judge, right? Like we guide and we say, hey, this month was a little heavy on the Amazon. Did something happen in your life? But we don't judge you, and we're not going to scold you and say you need to go cold turkey on everything you're doing because I think all of the literature across multiple disciplines has shown cold turkey does nothing for anybody's behavior, changing behavior. Um, and then the other thing I wanted to ask you is so two questions actually. One, in terms of that 3 month financial look back, what is something that you have uncovered for a client that they didn't realize they were doing in that 3 month time period before? And then the second question is everybody stuck to a 50/30/20 or can it be adjusted?
So, I mean, let's start with the second question, right? The 50/30/20. No, no one's stuck to a 50/30/20. It's a rule of thumb. It works for most people. It doesn't work for some people. We have clients who are spending 70% of their income on necessities, and that's fine. So we work through that. So these things are very much adjustable. What we try to do is we try to make a reasonable number that could say like, okay, let's put this percentage as a necessity. Let's put this as a miscellaneous. You should definitely enjoy yourself. You work hard for this money. You should enjoy yourself. And then let's put this portion to savings. Your first question, the 3 month that I noticed, and a lot of our clients don't realize this, how they pay their credit card, right? For instance, like interest that they have accrued over the years, what that's doing to them, to their financial journey, what's doing to their credit history, their credit score, all these different things. So I remember like we had like one of our early clients when we did this, we kept on seeing a lot of interest charges, and we're like, oh, what is this? And we realized they had like what was it, like 4 or 5 credit cards, and it was just like they were paying the minimum. So when that happened, they were accruing all this interest, and it's like, whoa, like we have a lot of interest over here. What's going on? What's the story over here? And once we like peeled the layers back over here, we saw that it was an education thing, right? Like paying the minimum versus paying the full. What could they have done differently, right? Like the amount that they were accruing in interest per month, they could have very easily paid off the credit card. So it was one of those things that we've noticed, and like random subscriptions to like travel sites that they've done, and it's like spending $10 here or like $20 there, and it's like they didn't even know they had that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, I was thinking of like people finally realize where their money is actually going, right? Because I think the first question that I've seen you ask clients is, do you know where your money goes when it comes in? Like, do you know a breakdown of how much? And most don't, right? And that's fine. That's why they're talking to us to get a sense of that. And then when we provide that 3 month look back, it's like, oh, I did DoorDash a lot. I didn't think I ate out that much, and 45% of my income went to door dashing when I could be cooking but the interesting is completely true. That was a shock to me when I learned that because and I also think that you pointed it out right. It's an educational gap because I was raised thinking pay your credit cards in full, right? Which means if you don't have the money to pay it in full, minimum is the next best option that you would think logically. Like I have the money to pay the minimum, I'll do that and statement balance you see and you're like what is statement balance, cool, it's a number in between. So the amount of times that we've educated on that, I'm actually really happy because you see people's light bulbs go off
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, that's all I have to do to avoid interest. And then road mapping, right? So like after we've done that 3 month look back, after you've done the crunch the numbers, um, I guess the next two questions would be meeting cadence, like how often do we meet with our clients, and two, how do we use that 3 month look back to set goals? Like, obviously, our clients will come to us with goals, but how do we set smart goals or realistic goals, short term and long term, using that look back?
Right. I mean, I would say like cadence, right? In the very beginning, we're once a month, right? I mean, we're not trying to bombard them. We're not trying. They already have busy schedules as it is. I mean, we have some clients who are residents who are doing some of like the hardest rotations. So, we try to be very flexible, like once a month, once every other month. Definitely in the beginning, we try to do it once a month, whether it's some sort of communication, whether we're meeting through Zoom or just sending out an email and a text. We already have like these group chats where we talk to them where we're like, hey, listen, an email is sent. Here is a summary, but you can see the full breakdown in the email when you get a chance. And that's a real one, right? I mean, like we're very flexible in that case, but in the beginning we try to do that once a month, see how the patterns are changing. And then, once you get the hang of it, we'll try to do like once every other month, or we try to do a quarterly. I know we had a few clients now who we are meeting on a quarterly basis, and honestly, they crushed it. They were in the beginning, they were once a month, and now they're quarterly. I mean, they really graduated along that program.
Yeah, and then in terms of goals, like short-term goals, long-term goals, what are some of the most frequent ones that we've seen come in terms of short-term goals?
I've seen like we've seen it, right? We've seen a lot of these clients who are coming in with credit card debt. They want to get rid of their credit card debt, or they want to build an emergency fund. I mean, and we hear this all the time, right? Like, what's the appropriate number for a emergency fund? I mean, obviously, it's different for everybody, right? Everyone's salaries are different. What their necessities are different. So, we try to come up with a number for them, what's reasonable, but everyone's emergency fund is different. And see this like where we had a client who is about to get married, was like, I want to stay up for a wedding. It's like, hey, listen, this is what you can do. This is what your budget is looking like right now. This is how much you've saved. What can you do differently to really tighten the budget so you can have more in savings?
Yeah, and I think the other important thing in terms of clients is realistic expectations, right? I think a lot of this comes from peer pressure and social media too, where we see clients who are like, my friends have high yield savings, or they're talking about Roth IRAs, and they're just trying to make ends meet, pay their bills, get out of their credit card debt. They don't have a savings set up yet, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. And I think that's what we spend a lot of time talking about. Never be embarrassed of the situation you're in because you're doing something about it, right? Like you are taking the first step, like we talked about, doing something about it to change that. And we've heard that from our clients. Some of our success stories, like we have heard them say, I am confident in my finances now. I have a savings and I want to do these other things. And can you help me with investments, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's just nice to see their growth, and see them teaching others, right? Like they're taking this knowledge and they're helping close friends or family of their own, which is fine. Like we don't care. We're not meant. Danny and I have full-time jobs. We're not doing this to become our rich off of this business. We're doing it because we truly care about people and don't want to see people hurting financially or making the wrong decisions.
Yeah, I mean, and like guilty statement, right? I've told this to some of our clients. Like, I was 30 when I started my first Roth IRA. And I was like, and that's because like, my savings wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be. I also didn't know much about the Roth IRA, right? I mean, there was a lot of reading done over there. It's not like I graduated and started a Roth IRA. I wish I did. But like, it is what it is, right? I mean, better late than never at this point. So, yeah, so like, I mean, I'm 35 right now, and I started when I was 30. Um, we have clients who are younger than that, and I was like, hey, I'm glad that I can teach you something that I learned like later in my finance journey than you guys.
hmm hmm so let's talk about what we don't do, because I think we've got like 10 minutes left on the pod. So what we don't do, Danny, I will let you take this over because you love talking about what we don't do.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, one thing that we don't do is we don't talk investments, right? We don't tell you what to invest in. We don't tell you how to invest. There are other people out there for that. We're not one of those, right? The difference and the question that Anuj that we got this the other day, right? In our networking session was, what's the difference between us and financial advisors? Um, I think we're a foundation, right? We're the foundation for us is as financial coaches, it's like money comes in, but what's happening to my money, right? Like, where is my money going? How much is going to savings? How much is going to my necessities? Am I in debt? How can I, relieve that debt? Versus financial advisors. These guys are professionals who are in the world of, making sure your investments are going according to the plan. We're not Series 7 people. We don't have any of those fancy degrees where they're giving you that really sound investment advice. we don't do that. I mean, I could, but I would feel bad if something happened. I wouldn't want to be that person. I wouldn't want to be held accountable. So there are professionals for that.
Yeah, and I think what you said biggest is we're foundational, we're educational, we're not. When you talk financial advisor, you're talking an advanced level of financial security and investment and moving, knowing the ins and outs of the markets and keeping track of that. And like Danny said, we don't do that. Danny, how long are clients? So we talked, about the three-part consultation being free, how the cadence of meetings. I think we have to talk about, how long do we want our clients to stay with us?
We recommend 2 years, right? I mean, the first year is really just, changing cognitive behavior, right? We're talking about like, understanding your finances, understanding your spending habits, and really just changing that. Whereas year two is we start to get to the advanced stuff of like, credit cards and how do we, get all these points and how do we travel for free. Um, I know it sounds a little bit long, but trust me, it's worth it, especially in the first year where you're like, okay, I don't know, this is my behavior. How can I change it, right? And then year two, once you get like, once the stuff that we pepper in there that we're secretly doing, that you are really listening to us, by the time year two comes, you're like, I didn't realize I had this many points. I'm like, what do I do with these points? You're like, so this is what you do. This is how you travel for free.
I think we have a little bit of time left. So to end this episode, unless you've got any tidbits, but the last thing I want to leave our people with is one of the biggest financial lessons we've learned since starting our own journeys and helping others, and two, your favorite client transformation. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the second one because I really enjoy the transformation, right? Like I feel like there's so many lessons we've learned, but my favorite thing is seeing the client transfer, right? My favorite so far is it's one of our clients who came in with like almost like $10,000 in credit card debt, paying the minimum and was doing like it was just, enjoying their life. But what we talked about the interest, right? Where we're like, hey, this is what's happening. If you're able to change this around, your credit score will be higher. And I remember when we saw their first credit score, it was pretty low, and we're like, all right, we're gonna have a 1 year roadmap to pay off your debt. And I remember like this client was so aggressive. They were so motivated and they were on it to the point that our 1 year roadmap became 6 months. And the minute they paid off the debt, the credit score jumped up by like 150 points. And they were like, dude, what the heck just happened? I'm like, oh, this is what happens. You have no debt. And now you're in the 700s and you're crushing it. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know this was possible. Like, yeah, this is very possible. Like,
Yeah, I would agree. That's also my favorite client, and also seeing their savings skyrocket, and
yeah.
they're sending us messages about, should I do high yield savings? Should I do a Roth IRA? I want to travel. What's my and it's just seeing that is amazing, and I agree with you. With the last couple of minutes, I will say my biggest financial lesson is probably buying a home. I don't know that there's a better financial lesson than that. Outside, also buying a car. I mean, just buying any major purchase is probably my biggest financial lesson because there's so many things that terms and conditions and so many things that people throw at you that it's okay. Like you will feel pressure going through it, and it's okay to just take a beat, right? Like tell your real estate attorney or whoever, like, I need a minute to just read this and understand, like, what am I signing my life away to? I need to know if I can afford this. Like nothing is ever that urgent, right? Like you can wait. If somebody else comes along and takes that house or that car, wasn't meant to be. So never put your pen, like never sign unless you feel fully confident in your decision. And that's probably my biggest lesson that I've learned.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite lessons that we've told a lot of our clients is like, only spend what you have, right? Don't try to be like, don't like try to like, don't try to be like everybody else, right? Be you at the end of the day. It's like, just because someone else has something doesn't mean that you need to have it as well. Um, do what you can afford, do what's best for you. Don't try to be like don't try to be like showboaty or try to be like, hey, everyone else is doing this. I need to do it too. No, you don't. You're on your own roadmap. You're trying to figure it out. and I'm sure in due time you will be just with everybody else.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you for joining us. This was an awesome episode. I hope you learned a lot about what we do at Start Smart Finance. And remember, we don't manage your money for you. We teach you how to manage it.